This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
It's 3rd and 1. Here's a shotgun snap to May and a sidearm delivery. Got it to his running back Henderson, who takes it by midfield. Down the near sideline 40, down the near sideline 35. Tackled at the 30. The clock is ticking. 2, 1, and that's it. And the Seattle Seahawks have won Super Bowl 60 in pretty dominating fashion. 29-13, they win their second Vince Lombardi trophy in a win over the New England Patriots. And Mike McDonald, the Seahawks head coach, becomes the 3rd youngest head coach to ever win a Super Bowl. And tonight, with the confetti flying, wins Super Bowl 60 here in Santa Clara.
Man, I love that stuff. That's how it sounded on Westwood One last night. Kevin Harlan on the call with a little bit of that auctioneer cadence for a moment. As we welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Always love being on the air with you the day after the biggest betting day of the year. Stormy, Buonantony, JVT, live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, and dominating defensive performance, as Harlan said there, is dead on.
I mean, I don't want to say it's exactly what we were expecting, but to an extent, we talked about the offensive line being an issue, how this offense maybe wasn't going to be able to move the ball. It sounded like maybe I poo-pooed the shoulder injury for Drake May, but it sounded like that was actually an issue for him. Had to get his shot up before the game so he wouldn't feel anything. But it seemed to play as a lot of us expected, which is a dominant Seattle defense at all 3 levels was going to be able to exact their will, and they were constantly getting behind the line of scrimmage, constantly getting after May, and as Harlan put it there, pretty dominant fashion, never really in danger of losing out on it.
Yeah, a good day for those of us that were playing the alts, Seattle covers the 4.5, but if you were somebody like us that laddered them up over the 7.5, the 13.5, the 14.5, that all ends up ultimately getting home. We are, of course, going to recap a lot of what cashed, what didn't, how yesterday played out, looking forward because we've got Super Bowl odds ahead for the 2026-27 season already, even MVP odds for next year. But with that said, there is life after football as well, so let's hit the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
In addition to all of the football items that we're going to cover today, JVT, we've got a full NBA card, some big-time college basketball as well. The top-ranked team in the country at number 11, Kansas, with Arizona and Kansas going head-to-head. So a lot of things in addition to the Super Bowl that we're going to hit on.
I'm down with it. You know me. I mean, I told you guys yesterday, I was like, it'd be a good bit if we just came on and didn't mention the Super Bowl at all today and just went straight with hoops, hockey, and everything else in between. No, looking forward to it. I mean, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. It's the beginning of February, which means we're right around the corner for March conference tournaments. Last few weeks, I mean, this is going to be great. So this is the time where there is never a dull time, but it is really starting to ramp up again.
Our Hornets are in action today. As that win-o-meter keeps going up. Yeah, step up in competition today, though, which does have me a little bit concerned. And as we mentioned with college basketball, we're also going to have a great guest, Matt McCall, former college basketball head coach, now doing great work as an analyst with NBC Sports, Field of 68, that whole crew. He's going to break down some of his thoughts, big picture on college basketball right now. But we're also going to cash some tickets today. I actually went down to the sports book a minute ago to cash some of my physical tickets. Bet you didn't know I had a under 58.5 longest punt.
Did you?
Yesterday, which ended up being a sweat, by the way. That said, obviously, as we mentioned, Seattle wins and covers in the game. The total in the balance late in this one, unexpectedly, given how slow starting this thing was. If that Kenneth Walker touchdown is not called back on a hold, we get the over in this thing. So big swing for sportsbooks. We're going to get into all of those different props, though.
Yep. It was, look, I thought it was kind of a boring game, but similar to last year's Super Bowl, when you got a lot of stuff and things are cashing and whatnot, I mean, come on now. It becomes entertaining. When A.J. Barner caught that touchdown, I bonded with a Seattle Seahawks fan, dapped him up. Was yelling in the middle of the area that I was at. So, man, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a Super Bowl. It's fun. And hopefully next year goes just as well.
I had 11, 12 people at my house yesterday for the game, including a couple of kids. And it did not register with me that there were children around at the end of the game when Travion Henderson ends up making my rushing and receiving prop to go over. Yep. I said, no bleeping way that just happened, like as loud as humanly possible. And I'm like, oh, there's a 5-year-old next to me. I should probably chill.
I'll have to tell you a story about children and VSiN and terrifying them a little bit later. I don't know if it's for the airwaves.
Oh, it's got to be. Yeah. Now I need to know.
I'll tell you afterwards. You can tell me whether or not it's worth telling.
Okay, that's a deal.
Or allowed.
But, of course, we're going to kick things off,
Sure.
just kind of diving into the game. And I made the headline on this one, Defense Wins Championships, because that felt like the story of the game where really early on, it really felt like New England wasn't going to be able to do anything offensively. Up until the fourth quarter in this game, JVT, they were averaging about 2 yards per play. Seattle was getting to New England. Like, we talked about that left side of the offensive line, and that was a weakness, and it showed. I feel like everything we kind of talked about ended up playing out pretty well, which is, nice for us, but not nice for people that were on the other side of it.
Honestly, I think my big takeaway here is, as we have seen now in multiple Super Bowls, and again, this is our 60th Super Bowl, so we've seen a lot of them. Offensive line play, and poor offensive line play at that, has sunk how many ships as we have watched them in this Super Bowl, or in this setting, I should say. We saw Patrick Mahomes go down with 2 very poor offensive line performances. We saw Drake May, he was under pressure on over 40% of his dropbacks. It was incredible how often he had to move off of his spot. Offensive line play, I think, is the top handicap that you have to have in a lot of these games. It's something we expected. And sure enough, it's exactly what manifested yesterday, and it's exactly why I think the Patriots lost this game. Their defense was doing a lot in the first half.
Yeah.
Doing everything they could to keep them in that one. But eventually, the levee broke because you just can't keep holding them. You have to get some sort of consistent offensive presence. Patriots couldn't do that, and I think that was the biggest difference. And I think that's your big takeaway. Offensive line, man, you got to start there. And if there's a big edge, then there's a reason why you should go in that direction.
As you bring up those pressures, May pressured on 19 dropbacks, 3 of 10 passing for 40 yards, 2 picks, and a lost fumble on those 9 of the 19 pressures given up by that left side that we talked about. And just feeling that the Seattle defensive line was going to be potentially the biggest advantage that they had in this game, and it showed up time and time again. One area where I was dead freaking wrong on this game, however, was saying, hey, I don't think it's worth it to bet Kenneth Walker for MVP because the Patriots' run defense is as good as it is. The biggest mover to an under we saw going into the Super Bowl was Kenneth Walker rush yards under. He goes over in the first half.
Yep. Walker was great. It's obviously he wins MVP, which I didn't hear anybody mention him for MVP at all prior to. There was a lot of long shots. There was this and that, but there was nothing there for him. That was pretty surprising how well they ran the ball against the Patriots front seven. That, as we had talked about a ton, if there was a weakness, we had talked about the offensive line, but one that you had trusted was going to be the defensive front to at least stymie Seattle to an extent. And by the way, Kenneth Walker was so freaking good. George Halani didn't really show up.
Yeah,
that was a really popular angle for a lot of people, whether it was rushing, receiving, or both. Only 2 carries for 6 yards, only 1 reception for 7 yards. So Walker was so good they didn't even have to go to him.
135 total rushing yards, 27 carries, 2 catches for 26 yards. So he goes over the 23.5 receiving yards as well late in this game. Will the Kenneth Walker jersey I got from the Lucky Box up here at Circa, will the value of that thing go up a little bit now?
Damn, I forgot about that. Yeah, you might actually have something there because it's autographed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually might have something there.
Come on, maybe the value's up. I got to get on eBay and start checking prices.
Yeah, too bad. It's obviously too bad you would have no way because you got it so long ago. But too bad it's not a Super Bowl jersey because then you'd be rocking. But still.
What's a girl to do?
A Super Bowl MVP signed jersey, that's got to be worth something more. More than my Pokemon card that I bought 2 months ago.
What you need to do is what that guy did, where you just kind of corner the market on the Pokemon cards and you just get all of them.
Umbreons
and
or
then
whatever
they become hyper valuable. That's what you need. Would you say that the worst beat of the day was Sam Darnold rushing yards? Would that be fair?
Yeah, probably. I saw a lot of people complaining about Drake May and the rushing yards, but Darnold was...
Well, that just depended on the number you got, too. Yeah. So you lucked out. Yes, I texted you to no response, by the way. No love for Stormy. Because you played... After the Drake May rushing yards had gone up, they peaked at 38.5. You got a 37.5 and played the under, thinking that it had moved too much. He ends with 37.
Yes.
You lucked out, dude. But, that was anywhere between 30.5 and 38.5.
Yeah, so, again, get the best of the numbers. We always talk about it. It's one of the best lessons. But, yeah, I saw a lot of people on that. Darnold, of course, is going to be pretty rough as well. But I would say that that's a really good – you should have had a winner there. Mm-hmm. Given the way the market moved, you could have had a winner either way if you were really paying attention to how that was going. So, and – it proves that once these props do move around, you can middle these things if you're really on top of it. You play the initial over. You could have gotten a middle of, 7, 8 yards, depending on when you played it. And sure enough, it felt right in between there, and you would have hit it. So, yes, I am a good sweat. And you texted me yesterday?
I did, a couple of times.
Was it from the party I wasn't invited to?
I asked you what you were going to do yesterday, and you said you wanted to watch it from the book.
No.
So no,
That's
here's what I'm going to say. As far as what transpired
That's not
on
a real
air,
invite.
as far as what transpired on air, you said that you were going to find something around here to do. I even asked you a week prior what your plans were because I was going to invite you, but then you said, I like watching from the book. I like doing X, Y, and Z. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother the guy to come hang out with my family. That's weird.
So what? Depending on you probably should have.
That said, yeah, maybe. For anybody that like maybe wasn't keeping tabs on that, the Sam Darnold yards specifically, the rushing yards prop was set at 6.5. He had 11, loses 6 on a late run, and then also the attempts, even though they win the game, they didn't have the ball last, so they don't have a chance to kneel it out, so you lose on the attempts too. It was just like a whole thing for anybody that was involved in that. Also, who had Matt Collins for most receiving yards for this game? Please show us the tickets.
Over on the longest reception.
Yes, look at you.
Yeah, shout out Scott. I stole it from Scott Seidenberg. Said it multiple times. Shout out to Scott. It was a good angle.
It was, yeah. Most receiving yards, longest reception. The streaker apparently good for the Patriots in that moment because pre-streaker nothing was happening for the offense. Post-streaker, then all of a sudden those 2 passes to Matt Collins, just unreal. Looking ahead to next season, the Seahawks and Rams plus 950 co-favorites for Super Bowl 61. If that number holds, according to ESPN stats information, it'll be the longest odds for a Super Bowl favorite entering a season in more than 50 years. Patriots 13-1, tied for 4th shortest odds. So, okay, with that in mind, we're going to take our first time out of the day here on Money Moves. We're just getting started. When we come back, let's continue, but looking more big picture on both of these teams with a season post-mortem on Seattle and New England. Is Seattle actually built to repeat, given the cash that they have available for them on the books, the young rising talent, and what can we really take away from New England's season as well when all is said and done? Okay, we will be right back on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This segment of Money Moves sponsored by Upside. Turn your gas purchases into real cash back with the free Upside app. You can download Upside now. Use promo code SPORTS for 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. And we're giving you your fill of Super Bowl content coming off the biggest betting day of the year yesterday. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. And something we didn't bring up last segment, and we only have so much time each segment to go, but if I were to have told you that Jackson Smith and Jigba would have 4 catches on 10 targets for just 27 yards, how would you think the Seattle Seahawks performed?
Probably not very well.
Probably not great.
No. I mean, seriously, on offense, they really didn't perform that well statistically. If you remove the victory, and I tell you, hey, this team had 20 first downs. They were 4-16 on third down. They averaged only 4.7 yards per play and threw for a net less than 200 yards. I mean, you're like, okay, like that's not really great. And yet they won the game because their defense forced 3 turnovers and set them up. So, and like you said, it was the and no touchdown for a long time until the fourth quarter, and then you finally kind of broke it open. So you give the Patriots defense a ton of credit. They played extremely well. I think they were everything that a lot of people expected them to be. Yeah,
no touchdown for the first half was like 10-1, 11-1. Yeah. That comes home. For the full game, I think it was like 250-1 for there to be no touchdown for the full game. And that was in play midway through the fourth quarter, which is just crazy to think about. Sam Darnold did... At the beginning of the game, I don't know if you agree with this, like he looked a little nervy.
Yeah.
I thought for at least a brief moment, I was like, okay, maybe something tricky is going to happen where he throws a pick and then New England's going to cash in. And then is that going to mess things up here because it's a field goal fest where things sit right now for Seattle? What's that going to look like? But once he settled in, and for him not only not to have a turnover this game, but for the Seattle Seahawks, just period, not to have a single turnover in the postseason, incredible.
Yeah, I thought it was really impressive. And that's why I think when you translate this or transfer it to next year, they're the best team in the NFL. I mean, Darnold is great. They've figured things out. He's done enough. They're loaded up for next year in almost every facet. And he has now, dating back to the beginning of last year, played at a level that is one of the better quarterbacks in the National Football League.
I know we're going to do Call Me Crazy a little bit later on, but that could be a, call me crazy, but the Sam Darnold is real now. Can we finally accept this, that the 2-year sample size we have seen from Sam Darnold, he has shown up the way that you need him to. He has proven throughout the course, he's a good quarterback.
Yep.
And even yesterday, in a day that was not his best performance by far, like the passing performance we saw against the Rams in the NFC Championship is night and day from what we saw yesterday, but still, I think he did exactly what you need him to do in that position. And with Kenneth Walker being able to run the football the way that he did, he manages the game to a T, doesn't make the key mistakes that you can't have, and you win the game by margin. It gets you in position time and time again.
Yep. I've been really impressed with this. And who knows who gets credit. I think everybody says Shanahan or O'Connell, but either way, he's continued this, and this has been great. 4th
quarterback since 1990 to win a Super Bowl with no turnovers. The other 3, Troy Aikman, Steve Young, and Drew Brees.
Yep.
Not too shabby. That said, again, as you talk about moving toward next year, plus 950 co-favorites with the Rams. Talk about how good that division could be, with the exception of the Arizona Cardinals. Probably the toughest in the NFL right now. But Darnold demonstrating the last 2 years his growth, having 2 more years of a team-friendly deal, lots of talent around him, great defense. They are projected also to have $63.5 million in cap space, which is 4th most in the NFL. They do have a couple free agents you need to figure out what you're going to do with. Kenneth Walker being among them, Rashid Shaheed, Reek Woolen, Boye Mafe. They do have some big money extensions that are coming for guys like JSN and Witherspoon. But a head coach that was a candidate for Coach of the Year this year, who's young, 38 years old, there's so much foundationally I feel like you can build on.
Yeah, I do. I believe Rashid Shaheed is probably going to leave. I would expect that he moves, I'll say, a little closer to here in our backyard, because I think Clint Kubiak's probably going to want him to go over to Las Vegas. We'll see if he can woo him to do just that. But
that is official now, too. Did you see him on NFL Network?
Yeah, officially announced. I was like, wow, I had no idea. This is crazy. Good job, man.
You guys know I'm going there. Come on.
But no, so that's kind of been the scuttlebutt, is that part of him coming over here is going to be to try to add Rashid Shaheed to the mix. So we'll see if that actually happens. But look, we've talked a lot about their special teams and how impactful Shaheed has been. He's obviously not the only piece for this team overall, and they're going to be very good as they move forward, even if they lose Shaheed and if they lose Kubiak. But look, we should say, we have seen other teams fall down when they lose their offensive coordinators and play callers that do those things at a very high level. The Lions are a really good example of that, and we can go down the list of a lot of other teams that have done it too. So I will be curious to see how much they do miss Clint Kubiak once he is gone.
Meanwhile, on the New England side of this, they are 13-1 in next year's Super Bowl odds, tied for 4th on the board. Drake May obviously had a fantastic year, his 2nd year in the NFL, finishes 2nd in the MVP voting, which that has been a whole other thing to see on social media the last 24 hours or less now, seeing the numbers and what Matthew Stafford did specifically against the Seahawks defense and the whole bit. Neither here nor there. We don't need to get into it.
Come on now. I'm just kidding. I don't want to tap dance on the grave.
He was robbed. Here is Drake May, though. Let's listen straight from the source on how he felt about falling short yesterday.
Credit to them. We were moving it solid in the first couple drives, and just have a couple negative plays that would kind of push behind the chains, and then from there we just couldn't stay ahead of the chains, and 3rd and short we couldn't pick up some first downs, and they had brought some pressure where they got us a few times, and just got to be better with the football, make better decisions, and I got to make better throws when the game is is like that. I got to make some throws to help us move the football.
At the end of the game, Drake May's finally doing some things. They're getting some positives, and then he throws that pick. And even Chris Collinsworth was just speechless. I have nothing to say here. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Look, I think and they are, 14-1 you said to win the Super Bowl, 13-1 to win the Super Bowl next year. You might be a very popular team. It is, I think after 4 games, it is just fair to ask what this team actually looks like next year with a schedule that is much more difficult than the one that they just went through. And everybody can get mad about that. But the fact of the matter is, in 4 games against top-tier defenses, he completed less than 60% of his passes, threw 6 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, averaged less than 7 yards per attempt, and fumbled the ball 4 times. That's actually fumbled the ball 6 times. He lost 4 of them. So there is, I think, a real question of, I think he's good, and I think the Patriots are going to be a solid team. But we see it all the time. teams make these runs that maybe they were a little ahead of schedule, and then you see the Washington Commanders, the Houston Texans, although their defense has been great, kind of fall back down the standings. And I think that this is going to be very interesting to see how the market prices them, where their win total is going to be, and what they ultimately get bet to, because I think they're a prime regression candidate for sure.
Totally agree with you. After leading the league in QBR this season, had a QBR of 16 in the Super Bowl, 40 throughout the postseason, which is third worst among all players since that stat was started tracking back in 2006. New England averaged 1.13 points per drive in the postseason, which is the fewest by a team to reach a Super Bowl since 2021 in the playoffs. And for context, the team that had the worst in the NFL throughout the regular season was the Browns, and that number was better than what the Patriots did in the playoffs. So, and I know it's situational. The defenses that they played were great, all of these things. But a big part of our handicap coming into the game was that it's not going to get easier against the Seattle Seahawks defense. And they showed up in a big way. I also know something else we didn't bring up that I feel for those of you that had Jason Myers tickets for MVP. We'll react a little bit more to that a little bit later. But he didn't have any kicks of consequence, and Kenneth Walker had the day that he had. If Kenneth Walker would have actually scored that touchdown late, I think that would have fully cemented it, no questions asked. But I was rooting for you guys with kicker tickets for MVP. I was.
Yeah. Going back to what we're talking about here with May really quickly.
Sure.
I think what's surprising and what we're going to what we're talking about too is, it's not just that they played a bunch of good defenses and it's like, man, that sucks. Like, those are really good units. The play fell off a cliff against those units. And so I think that's going to be interesting to see how much they're going to invest in the skill position group, how they're going to try to upgrade that, what they're going to do along the offensive line. I mean, Campbell really struggled throughout the year. And we talked to Jeff Schwartz about it. He thought a lot of it had to do with the busy schedule. It makes some sense. I mean, you play, you go through the draft, and you got to play throughout the entire year, whatever it is. But you might have questions about this offensive line as well. I know they're young, but maybe it's a flaw. I
know you weren't listening to the broadcast as much as I probably was in this game, but there was a hit that I believe Melissa Stark, she was on the Patriots sideline, that she did of Mike Vrabel coming over to the offense and the offensive line specifically and trying to talk through things with them and putting some positive energy out there. I could not stop staring at Will Campbell during that hit in the shot of the huddle because of all the people that were dialed in and listening to Vrabel, he's not paying attention at all.
Really?
And just looking over here. And it's that is just, that's not good. Okay. That's not helping your cause, buddy. Speaking of Drake May though, looking ahead to next year and being a regression candidate, he's 10-1 on the MVP odds board already. Josh Allen is your favorite at plus 550, Lamar Jackson plus 650, but May, Herbert, Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes, all 10-1.
Well, I mean, look, so the prices on these guys are going to be short because they're quarterbacks. I mean, you mentioned who was 15-1 that you were looking at. You were talking about this off the air.
Caleb Williams.
Sorry. This guy got very excited. Yes, Caleb Williams is very short at 15-1 because he plays quarterback in the National Football League, and that's what is always going to happen. I feel like you want more, obviously, given the schedule and given everything that they have to go through here. So I don't think that that's worth investing in at 10-1. And we haven't even seen the schedule. So the first place schedule and what that's going to look like for him, I think it's going to be a price that's not worth paying. And speaking of prices, if you're still paying full price for gas, you don't have to. With the free Upside app, you can earn real cash back every time you fill up. Just download Upside from the App Store or Google Play and start earning today. Use promo code SPORTS to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. Drivers are saving $200 to $300 a year just buying the gas they already need. Simple. It's legit. Got to check it out today. Download the free Upside app now. Use promo code SPORTS for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. And one way to make you feel better about the post-football blues is how awesome college hoops could be down the stretch. We got a couple really great games today. Excited to talk it all over with Matt McCall, who joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line, former UMass and Chattanooga head coach, analyst for NBC Sports. Can also catch him on SiriusXM, CBS Sports HQ, the Field of 68 as well. And I know, Matt, so you're a Florida guy, but spending as much time as you did in Amherst and Massachusetts area, did you have a dog in the fight? Were you rooting for New England yesterday? Anything in the Super Bowl for you?
Guys, I had no dog in the fight. Especially when, you get told that you're no longer the coach in this area in New England. It's kind of like, I'm not really a Patriots guy. I grew up in an area where it was all about college sports. My dad, God rest his soul, was a middle linebacker at the University of Florida. So I was kind of in this place like, do I root for the Jaguars? Do I root for the Bucks? Miami's a little bit too far, so I wouldn't really say I had a dog in the fight. We landed on a flight last night in Atlanta right as Bad Bunny was getting ready to start the halftime show, so didn't even get an opportunity to see that. But I heard it was a very uneventful Super Bowl Sunday. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. Somewhat of a boring game, but let's talk about one that might not be so boring today.
Yes.
Arizona is going to be in action today against Kansas. Very much looking forward to this. Right now, Arizona -2 with a total of 153.5. Let's start with this matchup first. Just what's your expectation for these two powerhouses going at it tonight?
Well, when you think about it, I mean, the story of the season has kind of been Darren Peterson in terms of is he in, is he out? And we've seen games where he's been out there in the first half and not play in the second half. Then we've seen him not play in overtime. And now, to me, it just seems like this team has figured out how to play when he's out there on the floor. You think about Trey White, you think about Badunga, you think about Melvin Council Jr., you think about Tiller. Everybody's kind of now understands, okay, this is my role when he's out there. And Fog Allen tonight is going to be electric. But let's take nothing away from this Arizona team and the job that Tommy Lloyd has done and where they are, having not lost. I mean, you think about the first game of the season playing against the defending national champions and kind of blowing the doors off that and dominating the front court with the best front court in college basketball. And Florida's continuing to prove they have the best front court in college basketball. But this Arizona team can win games in a lot of different ways. Koa Pete, we know what he can do. Braden Burries, if Pete's struggling, he picks him up. Jaden Bradley, they can win games in the 90s. They can win games in the 60s or 50s if they have to. But I like Kansas. Bill Self, he's got this look on his face. It was kind of like, hey, guys, everybody relax. Once we start to figure this out with Peterson in the lineup, we're going to be just fine. And they are playing like a team that can not only get to a Final Four, they can win a national championship. And to me, tonight, this game, you can't count out Houston and what Coach Sampson's doing, but the Big 12 is the best conference in the country. There's no question about it. But does this say something about Kansas if they're able to win this game and say, okay, are we the best team in the Big 12? And it may be if they're able to knock this Arizona Wildcat team off tonight.
Do you think that they do when all is said and done? Do you think that they get the win tonight?
I think Fog Allen pushes them over the top.
Okay.
I have been in Fog Allen. We were up 18 at the half when I was an assistant coach at Florida and lost. There's just something about that building. It's going to be electric. Watch the walkout from Bill Self, the swagger that he walks out of the locker room tonight. But you can't count out this Arizona team. Every single time we think that they're going to drop one. I thought they were going to drop one, to TCU. I thought on the road. I thought they were going to drop one, to BYU, and they just continue to win games because they can win games in a lot of different ways. So I like the Jayhawks tonight, but if Arizona wins, that would not surprise anybody, and that's a tribute to Tommy Lloyd and the job that he continues to do. Look up his winning percentage. It's unbelievable. And you're talking about a guy that had never been a head coach before, leaves Gonzaga, comes to Arizona, and is just doing an unbelievable job. But I like the Jayhawks tonight.
All right, let's talk about this St. John's team. I'm curious. So the matchup aside, because they're big favorites, but they've won 9 straight. This team can shoot as opposed to last year. How dangerous, Matt, is this St. John's Red Storm squad once we get into the tournament?
Well, I'll tell you guys, I had them in the Final Four to start the season. And everyone was out on them coming out of the event out in Las Vegas and how they played, dropping a game to Auburn by 11 points. Then they lose to Kentucky by 12. And at that point in time, Kentucky was struggling. But really, the game that may have turned this season around for St. John's is the loss to Providence in the Garden to a Providence team that has really struggled. You see Bryce Hopkins in that game. He did not play well. and he's completely turned it around. Everyone wants to keep talking about Providence in terms of they don't have a point guard. They don't have a point guard. They don't have a point guard. Well, guess what? Coach Pitino, who's one of the best coaches to ever do it, has done. He's adjusted that, and he's playing through Zuby Ejiofor. He's playing through Bryce Hopkins, and they're playing at a high level. I think the biggest thing tonight against his son, and you know he's going to have a team ready to and prepared to play against his son, is how do you handle that game on Friday night? Because have we seen Madison Square Garden in a college basketball game that was not the Big East tournament as electric as Madison Square Garden was on Friday night? There is no way. It was unbelievable to see that environment. Now it's how do you move on past that game? You know Coach Pitino is going to have his team ready to play, but the adjustment without the quote-unquote point guard that they have made and playing through those two front court players and getting better on the defensive end of the floor because they were struggling defensively going into December, and they've gotten better. They have improved. I'm not saying Final Four like I predicted them to get to before the season started, but, man, they are a second weekend team, and you know Coach Pitino is one of the best to do it, is going to have them prepared to play. And I think Richard, his son, is doing a great job with this Xavier team. I really do. I thought against UConn they could stay in the game. If they made 15 threes, UConn ended up running through them. But this Big East, when you look at the conference as a whole, there's two teams at the top. Then you have Villanova, and there's a lot of other teams who won't even be on the bubble in terms of NCAA tournament, but they're going to make the semifinals of the Big East tournament. Mm-hmm. And you guys know this, anything can happen.
St. John's is 13-1 to make the Final Four. And you make a great point, though. They responded so well from the loss to Providence, rip off 9 straight, 7-2 against the spread in that time. How do they respond now coming off the big win Friday against UConn? Are there any teams, Matt, that big picture this year you don't think are getting enough attention or talked about enough as being true contenders come tournament time?
Well, it's hard to say, that Florida's not a true contender because of, what they did last season. And I'm not just saying this because, that's my alma mater. But, some people lost some hope, especially when they lost to Missouri the way they did, to start SEC play. What's with the point guard play? Can Xavier Lee be the guy? We know how good their front court is. But to see what that team is doing right now in the SEC, going on the road, beating Texas A&M the way they did, and a week ago Texas A&M was the best team in the SEC, and they went in there and blew the doors off them. So, I think the Florida Gators, they went into that game ranked 17th in the country. Now they're up to 14th. They got to go on the road and play against Georgia. That would be a team. Miami of Ohio is a great story in all of college basketball. St. Louis, the job that Josh Schertz is doing is another team in the Atlantic 10 that you have to, talk about and consider just in terms of a team that can win the game in the NCAA tournament. I do believe that they're an NCAA tournament team, all said and done. They're 11-0 in the Atlantic 10, 23-1 overall. So those would be some teams. But I also think we've got to go back to North Carolina and Hubert Davis. Because Duke's a team that you sit there and you say, hey, we don't talk about them enough. And then North Carolina knocks them off. Court storm, everything that happens. But Hubert Davis back against the wall to come out swinging, to come out fighting that he's done this season. They go on the road, lose those 2 games out in California, and come back and have found their rhythm, found their stride. One of the best freshmen in the country, top 3 pick in the NBA draft, in my opinion, is another team that, we need to tip our hat to. And somehow NC State with Will Wade, he challenged his team after they lost to Georgia Tech, but there is no coach in the country that wants to play against that NC State team in the NCAA tournament because of who's coaching that ball team.
Matt, great stuff. We so appreciate your time. Thank you for doing this. Have a great day.
Anytime, guys. Always appreciate it.
Matt McCall. Again, follow him on X as well, at Coach Matt McCall. That win for North Carolina. The end of it was so fun. What a pass. What a shot. Just phenomenal. Okay, we got to step aside here on Money Moves. Rolling along here. Call me crazy, but after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Get ready to win a larger-than-life World Soccer Championship experience only right here at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. One lucky winner can score a 2-night stay here at Circa, VIP cabana for the games at Stadium Swim with $500 in credit, plus $250 in food and beverage as well. Arrive in style with limo transportation, celebrate with cocktails at Legacy Club. It's going to be a heck of a time. Enter now and kick off the World Soccer Championship at Circa Resort and Casino. For giveaway details in full, visit circalasvegas.com. That's circalasvegas.com.
Put on your tinfoil hats.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. The whole world gone crazy.
For Call Me Crazy, but...
Ooh, let's do it. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Tobel with you back here on Money Moves. Time for Call Me Crazy, but... little Super Bowl edition coming off of yesterday and what was, as we've said a couple times now, the biggest betting day of the year. It's massive, and with that, I know there's been a lot of reaction to the fact that poor Jason Myers couldn't get it done for MVP despite being perfect. 5 for 5 for his field goals. Also, this is a full field goal game until the fourth quarter. He still hits both of the extra points necessary and everything. But here we go. Call me crazy, but a kicker is never going to win Super Bowl MVP. For me, it's like yesterday was an if not now, then when type of a thing. And if that type of a performance can't get a kicker home for MVP, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you here. I mean, because even if it's a game like that yesterday, and I don't even know if he would have won it if that would have just kept going, only because I think voters will view how you got to set up those field goals as more valuable. So that's why the player, whoever acquires the yards, whether it's Kenneth Walker, Sam Darnold, or whatever different instance, I just don't think they're going to get enough credit for just going out there, lining up and kicking a field goal 3, 4, or 5 times.
Yeah, the longest field goal was 41 yards. None of them were really of consequence in this thing. I was actually thinking for a time, it's like, you see how Drake Mays turned it on. If Sam Darnold kind of turns it on here in the fourth quarter, too, and has a couple touchdowns, big plays, or something like that, I could see him even winning over Kenneth Walker.
I mean, I would say that you're better off next Super Bowl if you really want to try this. I know it's not the same payout, but try to find some, can you ladder made field goals? I mean, that's what you need. You need a lot of field goals made, and maybe that's the way to do it without getting burned by them not winning it.
Okay, so we kind of talked about this next one already earlier on in the program. So you stole my thunder. So I already know you don't think I'm crazy, which is a plus. But call me crazy, but maybe that whole strength of schedule thing did actually matter when all is said and done for the New England Patriots. And I understand that you can only play the teams that are in front of you, and New England did handle business. But I was not sold most of the year in large part on this team because of how many of their metrics felt like they were inflated. What are you laughing at? What's the smile?
No, nothing. I'll tell you later.
But, I mean, they played one of the easiest schedules in NFL history. It was the easiest since 1999. They played 11 games, JVT, against teams who won't return their head coach next year. And even in the postseason, while they went through a couple of really stout defenses in Houston and Denver, they didn't play well offensively in those games either. And the opposing offenses that they faced had, a completely banged up offensive line that made life hard on your quarterback. Then you face one of the worst offenses that we saw in the NFL, and it was even worse in the playoffs is what we saw from Houston. And you have a backup quarterback in the AFC Championship game. So it's everything kept showing up Seattle for me in this game, and I think, I don't know, I felt a little bit vindicated seeing the game play out the way that it did yesterday.
I think you always do when that sort of thing happens. I mean, like we've talked about, the Patriots are a good team. They're a fine team. Drake May might be a very good quarterback as we move forward. We don't know. But the strength of the schedule does matter in a sense. And it inflated some of the power rating, I think, on the New England Patriots. I think it is a reason why maybe there were some who thought that there was obviously going to be a push for them in this game to stay inside of that number. And I just think that when you actually break it down, really it comes down to that offense and that team had not faced teams of the caliber of the Seahawks like you're talking about regularly. And I think maybe if there was more on that schedule and you kind of get through the bumps and the bruises, whatever, maybe you can win that game a little bit later. But that is a very big step up in competition these last 4 games for them. And they got through the first 3, but the offense wasn't great. And then you saw what happened yesterday.
And I think because of that, we never really knew what the New England Patriots were. We talked about the odds even looking ahead for next season. I don't really know what we can even take away from this year and push it forward. And then you faced a Seattle team yesterday that was battle-tested and showed up. Do you have any Call Me Crazies today?
Yeah, so we have a couple of odds up, obviously. You mentioned the MVP, the odds for next year, all these sort of things. So as I was looking around, something stuck out to me. Call me crazy. but give me the Baltimore Ravens again at 13-1 to win this whole thing.
Okay.
Come on now. I believe it. I think I believe in this offense. I think the skill set's there. I think the way that they're going to run this thing with this new system coming in and Lamar Jackson, I think it's going to all work. And I think that team last year was incredibly unlucky with the injuries and everything that they had. And I'm ready to get hurt again with the Baltimore Ravens at 13-1.
And will they finally have a defense with a defensive-minded head coach and Jesse Minter?
Correct. I think there's a lot of fixes that can be made here this offseason. And by the way, I guess a decrepit quarterback might be coming back into the division. So there you go. There's 2 wins that are going to help you out there as well, potentially. I mean, in all seriousness, the pieces are there. I think injuries greatly affected them in poor scheme defensively. Once you fix up those things, which can be, I think, fixed in an offseason, you're looking at a team that might be very, very dangerous in the AFC. I
don't think you're crazy. Lamar Jackson also, by the way, second shot on the MVP board for next year at plus 650. Yep. Josh Allen is your favorite. Now, last night there were a few, I think, fair to say, questionable decisions from Coach of the Year Mike Vrabel, from Assistant Coach of the Year Josh McDaniels yesterday, playing so conservative, down 12-0, not going for it on the 4th and 1. But I think the big one, the real head scratcher, down 19. Drake May hits Matt Collins for the touchdown to make it 19-6. And instead of going for 2, kicks the extra point. Call me crazy. You have to go for 2 there. Yeah. It's basic math.
Right. I'm with you. I mean, I think you have to go for 2 there, given the situation and everything, but like I put, not that it would have mattered.
Yeah, that's what I you have to go for 2. Not that it would have mattered because it was the first time your offense did anything all day.
But, no, I'm with you. I'm surprised. And, it's funny, we have these conversations all the time about, you got to take the points, got to take the points. I mean, where was that crowd yesterday? You got to go for 2 there. I'm surprised. It was a gaffe that I did not think that he would make.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, again, I preface that within the context of it's the coach of the year and the assistant coach of the year that are making some of these decisions.
Wow.
And in that instance, like, if you go for 2, all you need is a touchdown, another 2-point conversion, and a field goal to tie. Instead, they put themselves in a position where they needed 2 full touchdowns, and it just seemed silly.
Real quick, Kenny Dillingham checks in, says a kicker can win Super Bowl MVP, but they need to make higher leverage kicks and or longer kicks. Long was yesterday was 41, no game tying / winning kicks, and that's a good point. They were a bunch of not chip shots, but they were relatively low leverage kicks that he was making.
Also, Kenny Dillingham, not the ASU football head coach.
No, I'm not going to.
We're not going to read the full Twitter handle name on that one, but I like where your head's at. Also, Polly Paul tweeting at us, fell out of my chair and spit my beer after you dropped the I love $19 beer night yesterday. Yeah, we were talking about some of the Super Bowl prices and everything yesterday. What a good time. Call me crazy, but no one watches Super Bowls anymore. I told you I had 11, Super Bowl commercials anymore. I had a good chunk of people at my house yesterday. Not one person was paying attention to the commercials. And even this morning, I went to play catch up, I got on YouTube.
New ones.
And I wanted to see what were the funniest and best commercials yesterday. It was pretty weak, I thought.
I did not watch a single one.
You were for our audience's sake, JVT was hanging out at Mega Bar yesterday. I'm surprised you even watched you were even able to catch up on the game.
No, it was a fun game. It was a ton of fun. Because I'm with you too. The commercials have kind of lost the appeal for the most part.
Yeah, it's kind of
Tell everybody what your favorite commercial is.
What do you mean?
You told me about your favorite commercial yesterday before the show.
Oh. This is so sad that I remember this. I was 13 years old. The most memorable, not my favorite, the most memorable Super Bowl commercial to me was years ago when it's a black screen and you just start hearing all of these noises that very much so sound like a couple people are doing the dirty. And then out of nowhere, the text on the screen just says, tan people get more. And it was a tanning places commercial. Unreal. But I mean, hysterical.
It was memorable. It worked.
Yes, the marketing, the branding worked. But I don't know. I thought that the Goodwill Duncan was kind of funny with Tom Brady at the end. And there were a couple that were fine, but I didn't watch them in real time. Yeah. And I don't know if that's a thing as much anymore.
Yeah. I didn't have anything else.
You see this?
I saw it. I'm sorry, I didn't have that much. I mean, to be honest, it called me crazy. It was an uneventful and one of the more uneventful and boring Super Bowls in the last few years. To me, going back to, I think that Rams-Patriots Super Bowl, this was a relatively uneventful and I think somewhat quiet Super Bowl throughout.
Call me crazy, but it lived up to the hype in that there was none.
Yes, right.
Is that fair?
I mean, I think that's why. Look, a lot of people expected a lopsided game. We got that lopsided game. Patriots never really found their way into it to at least legitimately threaten the Seattle Seahawks. And I think that kind of played out with the way that this was going. We'll get some of the numbers too and talk about the way the books did and all that kind of stuff. And here on the network, we'll hear from odds makers. But I think that a lot of people expected, in a way, what happened yesterday.
Yeah. Okay, this was fun. And yes, we will go behind the counter for a little bit from Derek Stevens, owner and CEO here at Circa, in the next segment about how certain things played out for them here at Circa. And just in general, like we talked about a lot of the props that were graded for the game itself, but we know come Super Bowl Sunday, everybody's talking about the novelty props, losing their mind over the color of the Gatorade. The coin toss actually was a massive liability. Yes, you cashed your heads like a psychopath. So we will hit on all of that when we come back here on Money Moves to kick off hour 2.
See me high-fiving everybody.
You're a wild one.